Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost of the one true God, back with you with the next video in my series reading The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. Without further ado, returning to The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn as read by Lord Naren White.
Yes, I know, but you can't depend on them. It's the way they've acted from the very start. Left us to do everything. They're so confiding and mullet-headed, they don't take notice of nothing at all. So if we don't give them notice, there won't be nobody nor nothing to interfere with us. And so after all our hard work and trouble, this escape will go perfectly flat. Won't amount to nothing, won't be nothing to it. Well, as for me, Tom, that's the way I'd like.
Shucks, he says, and looked disgusted. So I says,
But I ain't gonna make no complaint. Any way that suits you suits me. What you gonna do about the servant girl? You'll be her. You slide in the middle of the night and hook that yaller girl's frock. Why, Tom, that'll make trouble next morning. Because, of course, she probably ain't got any but that one. I know, but you don't want it but 15 minutes to carry the non-animus letter and shove it under the front door. All right, then. I'll do it. But I could carry it just as handy in my own togs. You wouldn't look like a servant girl then, would you? No, but there won't be nobody to see what I look like anyway. That ain't got nothing to do with it. The thing for us to do is just do our duty and not worry about whether anybody sees us do it or not. Ain't you got no principle at all? All right, I ain't saying nothing. I'm the servant girl. Who's Jim's mother? I'm his mother. I'll hook a gown from Aunt Sally. Well then, you'll have to stay in the cabin with me when me and Jim leaves. Not much. I'll stuff Jim's clothes full of straw and lay it on his bed to represent his mother in disguise. And Jim will take the black woman's gown off me and wear it, and we'll all evade together. When a prisoner of style escapes, it's called an evasion. It's always called so when a king escapes, for instance. And the same with the king's son. So it don't make no difference whether he's a natural one or an unnatural one.
So Tom, he wrote the non-animus letter, and I smouched the yaller wench's frock that night, and put it on, and shoved it under the front door, the way Tom told me to. It said,
Beware! Trouble is brewing. Keep a sharp lookout. Unknown friend.
Next night, we struck a picture, which Tom drawed in blood, of a skull and crossbones on the front door, and next night another one of a coffin on the back door. I never see a family in such a sweat. They couldn't have been a worse scared if the place had been full of ghosts laying for them behind everything, and under the beds and shivering through the air. If a door banged, Aunt Sally, she jumped and said, Ouch! If anything fell, she jumped and said, Ouch! If you happened to touch her when she weren't noticing, she done the same. She couldn't face no way and be satisfied, because she allowed there was something behind her every time. So she was always a-whirling around sudden and saying, Ouch! And before she'd got 2/3 around, she'd whirl back again and say it again. And she was afraid to go to bed. But she doesn't set up. So the thing was working very well, Tom said. But he said he never see a thing work more satisfactory. He said it showed it was done right. So he said, Now for the grand bulge. So the very next morning at the streak of dawn, we got another letter ready, and was wondering what we better do with it, because we heard them say at supper they was going to have a black on watch at both doors all night. Tom, he went down the lightning rod to spy around, and the black at the back door was asleep, and he stuck it in the back of his neck and come back. This letter said, Don't betray me. I wish to be your friend. There's a desperate gang of cutthroats from over in the Indian Territory going to steal your runaway black tonight, and they have been trying to scare you, so you will stay in the house and not bother them. I am one of the gang, but have got religion and wish to quit it and lead an honest life again, and will betray the hellish design. They will sneak down from Northwards along the fence at midnight exact, with a false key, and go into the black's cabin to get him. I am to be off and blow a tin horn if I see any danger. But instead of that, I will baa like a sheep soon as they get in and not blow at all. Then, whilst they are getting his chains loose, you slip there and lock them in, and can kill them at your leisure. Don't do anything but just the way I am telling you,
If you do, they will suspicion something and raise whoop jamboree hoo. I do not wish any reward but to know I have done the right thing. Unknown friend. Chapter 40. We was feeling pretty good after breakfast, and took my canoe and went over the river a-fishing, with a lunch and had a good time, and took a look at the raft and found her all right, and got home late to supper, and found them in such a sweat and worry they didn't know which end they was standing on, and made us go right off to bed the minute we was done supper, and wouldn't tell us what the trouble was, and never let on a word about the new letter, but didn't need to, because we knowed as much about it as anybody did, and as soon as we was half upstairs, and her back was turned, we slid for the cellar cupboard and loaded up a good lunch, and took it up to our room and went to bed, and got up 11:30, and Tom put on Aunt Sally's dress that he stole, and was going to start with the lunch, but says, "Where's the butter?" "I laid out a hunk of it," I says, "on a piece of a corn pone." "Well, you left it laid out, then it ain't here." "We can get along with it too," I says. "We can get along with it too," he says. "Just you slide down cellar and fetch it, and then mosey right down the lightning rod and come along. I'll go and stuff the straw into Jim's clothes to represent his mother in disguise, and be ready to baa like a sheep and shove soon as you get there." So out he went, and down cellar went I. The hunk of butter, big as a person's fist, was where I had left it. So I took up the slab of corn pone with it on, and blowed out my light, and started upstairs very stealthy, and got up to the main floor all right. But here comes Aunt Sally with a candle, and I clapped the truck in my hat, and clapped my hat on my head, and the next second she see me, and she says, "You been down cellar?" "Yes'm." "What you been doing down there?" "Nothing." "Nothing?" "Nope." "Well, then, what possessed you to go down there this time of night?" "I don't know 'em." "You don't know?" "Don't answer me that way, Tom. I want to know what you've been doing down there." "I ain't been doing a single thing, Aunt Sally. I hope to gracious if I have." I reckoned she'd let me go now, and as a general thing she would. But I suppose there were so many strange things going on, she was just in a sweat about every little thing that weren't yardstick straight, so she says, very decided, "You just march into that setting room and stay there till I come. You've been up to something with no business to, and I'll lay flat I'll find out what it is before I'm done with you." So she went away as I opened the door and walked into the setting room. My, but there was a crowd there. 15 farmers, and every one of them had a gun. I was most powerful sick, and slunk to a chair and sat down. There was setting around, some of them talking a little low voice, and all of them fidgety and uneasy, but trying to look like they weren't. But I knowed they was, because they was always taking off their hats, and putting them on, and scratching their heads, and changing their seats, and fumbling with their buttons. I warn't easy myself, but I didn't take my hat off all the same. I did wish Aunt Sally would come and get done with me, and lick me if she wanted to, and let me get away and tell Tom how we'd overdone this thing, and what a thundering hornet's nest we'd got ourselves into, so we could stop fooling around straight off, and clear out with Jim before these rips got out of patience and come for us. At last she come and begun to ask me questions, but I couldn't answer them straight. I didn't know which end of me was up, because these men was in such a fidget now, that some was wanting to start right now and lay for them desperadoes, and saying it weren't but a few minutes to midnight, and others was trying to get them to hold on and wait for the sheep signal, and here was Auntie pegging away at the questions, and me a-shaking all over and ready to sink down in my tracks. I was that scared. The place was getting hotter and hotter, and the butter beginning to melt and run down my neck and behind my ears, and pretty soon when one of them says, "I'm for going and getting in the cabin first, and right now, and catching them when they come," I most dropped, and a streak of butter come a-trickling down my forehead, and Aunt Sally, she see it, and turns white as a sheet, and says, "We'll go ahead and stop there for this week.
As usual, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe,
as it greatly helps the channel.
light be with you all. Take care, and thanks again.